mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, helas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nagtitindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magtitindig. Luman ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya ng partay mga aking, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
A prayer for teachers. Giver of all wisdom and greatest of all teachers, look upon our teachers with love. Grant them the resolve to nurture our eager minds and to never give up on us who fall behind. Bless their hearts, for they rejoice when we succeed, and encourage us when we fail. Endow them with gentle patience, for the path of learning is never easy. Kindle a spirit of passion in them. It is the flame that ignites the love of learning in us. Help them see the potential in each student. Their belief in us means much more than the grade we make. Instill in them a commitment to keep on learning. It shows us to not fear new knowledge and experiences. Inspire them to touch the future. They influence how big a dream we dream for ourselves. Bless our teachers who have come before, for their work endures to this day. Let the light of your example shine upon all teachers, to build up with their words, to love with their mind, to share with their heart. Amen.
Good morning. Hello everyone, especially to all grade 5 and ALS teachers, and welcome to Quarter 2 Division Webinar Series on Science Content and Teaching Strategies of the Most Essential Learning Competencies. This webinar series will be significant and productive because we are blessed to have well-equipped and competent facilitators. But before we start, let me share to all of you the objective of this activity. First is to enhance the content knowledge and pedagogical skills of science teacher in teaching science from grade 3 to grade 12. The second is to capacitate all science teachers in the content and teaching strategy in the context of the most essential learning competencies for Quarter 2 using various platforms and modality that teaching and learning made available at all levels. To begin, let us hear an opening remarks from a hard-working and dedicated education program supervisor of science, no other than Dr. Edwin Riel Bermilio. Good morning po, sir.
Happy New Year, everyone. My respect and greetings to our school's Division Superintendent, Dr. Romeo M. Alip, to our Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Sir William Roderick Falyorin, to our Curriculum Implementation Division Chief, Dr. Milagros M. Peñaflor, to the Program Management Team, Learning Facilitators, Science teachers from grade 3 to senior high school, including alternative learning system, to our dearest students and parents, magandang buhay po sa ating lahat. Positive feedbacks were received from the first wave of our webinar as a good start that signified that the science department could conduct webinar in the different grade levels from grade 3 to senior high school using this platform and live stream at Bataan Science Channel. Expectedly, the task of teachers will be more challenging than before, considering that in this new normal setting, we in the SDO Bataan need to embark appropriate strategies and approaches to be able to realize our desire to make science education continue amidst this health crisis. This second wave of our webinar series is aiming again to enhance the content knowledge and pedagogical skills of our science teachers as necessary preparation for us to effectively deliver the most essential learning competencies and skills to our teachers and learners for the second quarter. This webinar series is only part of what we intend to do under the new normal to augment the educational needs of our students. It is a perfect tool that offers a myriad of information on science content, teaching strategies, and innovation in support to science curriculum that will help them to adapt to changes in the latest teaching and learning system under the new normal. To our learning facilitators and program management team, thank you very much for accepting this challenge. I know we can do this with God's grace, and we will be able to survive and face the whole new world of educational learning experience with confidence, integrity, and most of all, with the different competencies that we have. Maraming salamat po sa lahat. God bless everyone. Keep safe po.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edwin Riel Vermilio. Now, to give us another inspiring and motivating opening remarks, let us hear it from our approachable and very supportive Curriculum Implementation Division Chief, no other than Dr. Milagros M. Peñaflor. Magandang umaga po, Ma'am Mila.
Hello everybody, good to be with you again after the first quarter. Here we go to the next station, the second quarter. Thanks to you, my dear science teachers, for the continuous effort of providing our learners with skills, not only for mastery, but most importantly, for developing higher order skills on critical thinking and creativity. My gratitude to our science supervisor, Dr. Edwin Vermilio, for all the initiatives. This move really provides our unit, the Curriculum Implementation Division, a great help in realizing its goal of providing basic education services to our clienteles. On behalf of our Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Romeo M. Alip, I would like to congratulate the Science Department, our teachers, our department heads, our principal science coordinators for improving science instruction that eventually lead to improving learner performance. Thank you for all your efforts. Congratulations and God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Mila, for the word of wisdom and support to our teachers and students. Again, to all the participants, you can comment down your reactions, your questions, and your shout-out sa ating comment box sa ating YouTube Live. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker to deepen the content topic about the parts and function of human reproductive system. a grade 9 and 10 science teacher of Saysayin High School, a very jolly person, Ma'am Nova C. Resente. Good morning po, Ma'am Nova.
Hello, fellow science teacher. Welcome to our division webinar series on science content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies. We are now on the second quarter of our division webinar series in science, grade 5. I am Mrs. Nova C. Resente, science teacher at Saysain High School. I will be sharing with you the first topic, which is about the reproductive system. The objectives of our discussion are: identify the parts of a male reproductive system and their functions. Number 2, identify the parts of female reproductive system and their functions. Male and female have different body structure that enables them to reproduce. One of it is the reproductive system. The human reproductive system has something to do with the differences and changes observed between male and female. First, let us talk about the male reproductive system. The male reproductive system is made up of several organs that is specifically responsible for producing sperm cells and hormones. What is a sperm cell? Well, this is important for production because it is needed to fertilize an egg cell which came from a female reproductive system. On the other hand, hormones are responsible for the development of adult male characteristics. Did you know that an average man can have approximately 5 million sperm cells in a single drop of semen? But out of these millions of sperm cells, one is needed to fertilize an egg cell. Now, let us talk about the male reproductive system. One is the penis. It is the external male organ with a tip called gland. What is a gland? The gland, also called the head of the penis, is covered with a loose layer of skin called foreskin. This skin is sometimes removed in the procedure called circumcision. The opening of the urethra, the tube that transports semen and urine, is at the tip of the penis. By filling with blood, penis will be able to erect. Therefore, it will be able to penetrate during sexual intercourse. Number 2, scrotum. Scrotum controls the testes temperature because it must be slightly cooler than the body to produce sperm cells. Scrotum is the male reproductive system, a thin external sac of skin that is divided into two compartments. Each compartment contains one of the two testes. The glans produces sperms and one of the epididymis, where the sperm is stored. Number 3, testes. Testes are glands that produce the sperm cells and the male sex hormone called testosterone. Testes are also called testicles. These are two oval-shaped organs in the male reproductive system. Structures within the testes are important for the production and storage of sperm until they are matured enough for ejaculation. What does testes hormones do? Testes secrete testosterone, which is necessary for proper physical development in boys. In adulthood, testosterone maintains libido, muscle strength, and bone density. Disorder of testes are caused by too little testosterone. 4. Epididymis. It is a narrow coiled tube that stores sperm cells. Why epididymis important? Epididymis is a slightly cold mass of this tube that carries sperms from the testes to the ductus deferens in the male reproductive system. Sperm matures as it passes through the epididymis so that it is ready to fertilize an ova by the time it enters the ductus deferens. Number 5, we have urethra. Urethra in male is the passageway of both urine from the urinary bladder and semen from the gland. The male urethra connects the urinary bladder to the penis. Once the bladder becomes full, urine flows through the urethra meatus, which is located at the tip of the penis. The urethra is more than just a urinary duct. It is also serves as conduit for semen and sperm during sexual act. Number 6, we have seminal vesicles. These are sac-like pouches attached to the vas deferens. It contributes to the semen reproduction by making sugar-rich fluids, which provides energy for the sperm cell motility. Seminal gland secretion is important for semen coagulation, sperm motility, and stability of sperm chromatin and suppression of the immune activity in the female reproductive tract. In conclusion, the function of seminal vesicle is important for fertility. 7. We have the vas deferens. Vas deferens connects the testes to the seminal vesicle and the urethra. 8. Cowper's gland, also known as the bulbourethral gland. It is one of the two pea-sized organs found beneath the prostate gland. Cowper's glands are pair of exocrine gland in male reproductive system. It plays an important role in the protection of sperm during ejaculation. It is responsible for releasing fluid that flushes out foreign matters and neutralizes the acidic urine in the urethra. Number 9, we have the prostate gland. It is the gland located between the bladder and the penis. It produces fluid that nourishes and protects the sperms. Its most important function is the production of a fluid that, together with the sperms from the testicle and fluid from the other glands, makes up semen. The muscles of the prostate gland also ensure that the semen is forcefully pressed into the urethra and then expelled outward during ejaculation. After the male reproductive system, let us have the female reproductive system. All girls have these parts. The female reproductive system has several organs, including ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, and vagina. These are very important because it is responsible for producing egg cells and supporting a developing baby inside a mother's womb. This is an egg cell. It is the female reproductive cell. It composed of nucleus and cytoplasm. Did you know that the egg cell is only 1/10 of a millimeter? It is about the diameter of a hair strand. Egg cell is not capable of movement, unlike sperm cell. Sperm cell is able of movement. When sperm cell and egg cell unite, fertilization occurs. It means one life begins. Now, let us talk about the different parts and function of the female reproductive system. 1. The ovary. Human female has 2 ovaries. Ovary produces egg cells as well as sex hormones. The female sex hormones are estrogen and progesterone. Did you know that when a female was born, about 70,000 egg cells are already present in her ovaries? However, only 500 of these eggs will mature. The mature eggs are released one by one every month once a female reaches puberty or teenagers. Remember that the releasing of egg will slow down or will stop when the female is about 43 to 55 years of age. Number 2, we have the fallopian tube. This fallopian tube leads the egg cell from the ovary to the uterus. The uterine tube, also known as oviduct, are the female structures that transport the ova from the ovary to the uterus each month in the process of sperm and fertilization. The uterine tubes transport the fertilized egg to the uterus for implantation. Female humans have 2 fallopian tubes, and each connecting to an ovary to the side of the uterus. Number 3, uterus. It is also known as womb. Uterus is a hollow muscular organ located at the lower abdomen. It is the female reproductive organ that receives the fertilized eggs and support its development during pregnancy. The main function of the uterus is to nourish the developing fetus prior to birth. Uterus has soft, smooth inner lining called uterine lining or endometrium. Uterine lining becomes thicker as it accumulates blood and nutrients to accommodate or to be ready for the unborn baby as it develops. Uterus is also the site where the fertilized egg is implanted. If the egg cell is not fertilized, it will break together with the uterine lining or endometrium. After it breaks down, it will be discharged during menstruation. Number 4, the cervix. It is located at the lower part of the uterus. It is a narrow opening between uterus and vagina. During childbirth, cervix expands to allow the passage of the baby. Number 5, we have the vagina. It is also called birth canal. It is a hollow muscular tube that extends from the cervix to the vaginal opening called vulva. The vagina expands to let the baby pass during normal delivery of birth. Now you know the parts and function of a female reproductive system. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Ma'am Nova, for the additional information that you shared with us to better understand and deepen our knowledge about human reproductive system. Before we proceed with our next speaker, shout out muna po tayo sa lahat po ng teachers ng Mariveles District. Ganun din po sa teachers ng Mariveles National High School Cabcaben, especially po sa teachers, na masisipag po na teachers ng Lucanin Elementary School. Again, you can comment down your reactions, your question, and your shout out using the hashtag I love Bataan and hashtag para sa bata para sa bayan. Our next speaker to deepen the content topic about the interaction of living and non-living things in estuary and intertidal zone is a grade 9 STE and science teacher from Justice Emilio Angeles Gangkayko Memorial High School. Let us all welcome Ma'am Eloisa C. Kizim. Hello po, Ma'am Eloisa.
Good morning. Welcome to the Division Webinar Series on Science Content and Teaching Strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies for the second quarter. I'm your facilitator, Maria Eloisa C. Kizim, a Teacher 3 from Justice Emilio Angeles Gangkayko Memorial High School in Orion District. The topic that was assigned to me is the interactions among living things and non-living things in an estuaries and intertidal zones. And for the most essential learning competency in this topic is discuss the interactions among living things and non-living things in estuaries and intertidal zones. And for the learning objectives are the following. Define an estuary and intertidal zone, and describe the living things and non-living things present in an estuary and intertidal zone and their interactions for survival. So what is an estuary? An estuary is a partially enclosed body of water along the coast where fresh water from the river or stream meets and mixes with salt water from the ocean or sea. An estuary is also known as ecotone because there is a transition between two biological communities such as the river or stream environment and the maritime environment. It also forms a transition zone between land to sea and freshwater to salt water. Sometimes it is called as an open ecosystem because it is open in any group of living and non-living things interacting with each other, and it is the habitat in which organisms live. Estuary is also considered as the nursery of ocean because most organisms are spawned in here, providing them nutrient and home, especially for resilient organisms. That's why it provides a rich feeding ground for fish and birds. Estuary is one of the most productive ecosystems in the world and contain a rich biodiversity of life. It may appear to be just an expanse of mudflats, but it is teeming with life. The word estuary originated from the Latin word aestus, meaning tide, and estuarium, meaning tidal part of the shore. And in the 16th century, it became estuary. There are three zones of an estuary. The first zone is closer to the river or stream. So in this zone, there is more fresh water than salt water. The second zone is closer to the sea. This zone features a much more equal mix of fresh water and salt water. The final zone or the third zone is closer to the ocean. So this zone is mostly made up of salt water. Always remember that the difference between the zones depends on the amount of fresh water or salt water there is. Estuaries are divided into four types depending on how they are formed. The first type is a coastal plain estuaries. These are formed by the sea level rising and filling an existing river valley. The second one is a tectonic estuary. This formed by the folding or faulting of land surfaces, and these estuaries are found along major fault lines like in San Francisco Bay area in California. The third one is a bar-built estuaries. They are formed when a shallow lagoon or bay is protected by a sandbar or barrier island. Lastly, we have the fjords estuaries. These are U-shaped valleys formed by glacial actions and found in areas with long histories of glacier activities like in Alaska, Canada, and Northern Europe. Since estuary offers a kind of diverse landscapes with different amount or types of water, so many different types of habitats exist with different types of organisms. There are different organisms present in an estuary. The fact that estuaries serve as source of food is one of the major reasons why organisms live near or in estuaries, like in the upland, marsh, mudflat, and channels. Not only living things are present in an estuary, which plays a vital role in the said ecosystem. The abiotic element present in an estuary are the following: rocks, the body of water, currents, waves, water temperature, surface winds, the soil and land, and salinity. These estuarine abiotic elements limit distribution and abundance by affecting an organism's life processes. And vital to the interdependence of life in estuary, a feeding relationship is present, which is known as the food web. This estuarine food web shows how nutrients are transferred through the ecosystems. Estuaries are threatened greatly as many of them are drained and converted into agricultural areas, shipping ports, and urban areas. Another example of an ecosystem is an intertidal zone. It is the area where the ocean meets the land between high and low tides. An intertidal zone is also an area along a coastline that is underwater at high tide and above the water at low tide. Intertidal zone exists anywhere when the ocean meets the land, from steep, rocky ledges to long, sloping sandy beaches and mud flats that can extend for hundreds of meters. An intertidal zone can exist in either a rocky shore or a sandy shore. A rocky shore is characterized by the life that lives in the intertidal zone. Life in here is tough. When water recedes at low tide, tide pools form, making microenvironments for the creatures in them. Rocky shore is one of the best studied marine ecosystems. Sandy shore or beaches are loose deposits of sand, including some gravel or shells that cover the shoreline in many places. Beaches are served as buffer zones or shock absorbers that protect the coastline, sea cliffs, or dunes from direct wave attack. At first glance, we assume that sandy shores are devoid of wildlife. Animals here have developed several physical features and behaviors to survive in this environment. Animals are distributed on the shore according to how quickly the sediments dry out at low tide. Most animals are able to live by leaving the surface of the sand and most hiding away as the tide drops. An intertidal zone has 4 physical divisions, each with distinct characteristics and ecological differences. The first division is the spray zone. It is an area which is dampened by the ocean spray at high waves. It is submerged only during high tides or severe storms. There are few organisms present in a spray zone since they are exposed to air and extreme temperature. So these are lichen, isopods, blue-green algae, periwinkles, and amphipods. The second division is the upper intertidal zone. It is an area which is flooded during high tide and at low tides. The area or division is exposed to high temperature that resident organisms must be adapted to live outside the water. The following are the organisms present in the upper intertidal zone. So these are the limpets, sea anemones, acorn barnacles, shore crab, black turban snails, hermit crabs, and rockweed. The third division is the mid or middle intertidal zone. It is an area which is typically covered by water. It has a greater animal and plant diversity, and organisms here are adapted to more water. The following organisms are present in the middle intertidal zone, such as the gooseneck barnacles, California mussels, black leather chitons, sea anemones, ochre sea star, and sea palms. The final division is the lower intertidal zone. This is an area which is only experiences exposure to air during the absolute lowest tide. The organisms here are used to live under the sea, and the organisms are not well adapted to long dryness or to extreme temperatures. The organisms present in the lower intertidal zone are the following: the gumboot chiton, nudibranch or what we call the sea slug, the bull kelp, kelp crabs, purple sea urchin, the coralline algae, and the giant green sea anemone. Most intertidal animals have a hard outer shell or exoskeleton to ensure they aren't crushed by the rough tides. Every organism in the intertidal zone is affected by the following factors, such as amount of sunlight, competition, time exposed to air, salinity variation, and temperature variation. Abiotic factors like amount of sunlight, time exposed to air, salinity, and temperature variation have low effect on the organisms live on the lowest part of the zone. Therefore, the survival rate of these organisms is very high on these four abiotic factors. But in terms of competition factor, the survival rate is very low for those organisms living in the lowest part of the zone, since the number of species there are great or abundant. Generally, competition for survival for every organism is high in this kind of ecosystem, where all organisms are susceptible for adaptation in order for them to survive, especially on this kind of changing environment. Similar to estuary, a feeding relationship or food web is also observed in the intertidal zone, where every organism is connected with one another. This is possible because there are different species present in this kind of ecosystem. How do living things and non-living things present in both estuary and intertidal zone interact? Of course, coping with salinity fluctuations. The organisms within these two ecosystems possess special adaptation to contend with the challenges around them. This means that in order for these organisms to survive to this kind of environment, they need to cope up with the changes brought about by the different abiotic elements or factors. Survival of the organisms in an ecosystem just like this depends upon their adaptability to both living and non-living elements within the community. Non-living elements remain vital to the ecosystem's health because they are keystones in its energy flow and nutrient cycle. The energy and elements are endlessly cycled within the ecosystem because of the interaction between its abiotic and biotic elements. Always remember that in an estuary or intertidal zone, everything is connected. This means that all elements, both the living and non-living, help each other for their existence. So in these two ecosystems, the life is diverse yet connected. As an educator, in order for our learners to have a thorough understanding on the lessons discussed, we can present a short video clips about estuary and intertidal zone, after the discussion as a follow-up or reinforcement. But make sure to give them some questions to be answered while they are watching the video clips, because their answers will help you or guide you if they really understand the lesson presented. So this is an example of a video clip that can be given to your learners to help them widen their understanding on the lesson discussed. Before I end my discussion, let me share with you this quote from Sir David Attenborough. Surely we have a responsibility to leave for future generations a planet that is healthy and habitable by all species. Through this quote, we will realize the importance of every species living in an ecosystem, especially nowadays that we are facing a global crisis in which every individual is responsible for his actions. Let us preserve this planet for the future of the next generation. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you for empowering us, Ma'am Eloy, and for the tour in the world of estuary and intertidal zone. Again, we can also watch our live webinar sa ating pong Bataan Science Channel. Again, we can use the hashtag #ILoveBataan, hashtag para sa bata, para sa bayan, hashtag Division of Bataan, hashtag webinar series, hashtag teaching strategies, hashtag milk, hashtag new normal. In these difficult times when social contact is limited to prevent the spread of viruses, the Department of Education has adopted different learning methods to provide students with quality and inclusive education even during the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite conditions that disrupt regular school attendance for one or more pupils, the department conducted trainings and webinars about the different teaching strategy to ensure the quality and continuity of teaching and learning process. To discuss the different teaching strategies in the content of most essential learning competencies with the topics animal and plant reproduction is a graduate of Bachelor in Elementary Education, major in General Education at Bataan Peninsula State University, Dinalipuihan Campus, and completed his academic requirements for Master of Arts in Educational Management at PUP Main Campus. Currently a grade 6 advisor and a teacher 2 at Lengua Integrated School. Let us welcome our next presenter, Sir Jason R. Ocampo. Good morning, Sir Jason.
Good morning, dear science teachers. In line with the content of reproduction of organisms, the teaching strategies that I will be sharing to you this time is particularly for the second and third contents, which is about the animal and plant reproduction that covers week 3 to week 5 of the second quarter respectively. I am your resource speaker, Jason R. Ocampo, Teacher 2 from Legua Integrated School of Orani District. Teaching strategies that I included in my discussion were primarily rooted on the suggested strategies in implementing distance learning delivery modalities for school year 2020 to 2021. And I also made consideration from the policy guidelines on daily lesson preparation for the K-12 Basic Education Program from the year 2016. According to DepEd Order Number 42, Series 2016, in planning lessons, teachers should select first from a variety of instructional models and to the corresponding strategies and methods. This is the instructional framework being used in Saskatchewan education since 1991. As you can see, instructional model is teachers' philosophical orientation to teaching, which is related to theories of learning, including behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, social interactionism, and others. Meanwhile, instructional or teaching strategy is a teaching approach influenced by the different educational theories. Teaching strategy is what a teacher uses inside the classroom to achieve the objectives of a lesson. A teacher can use a strategy or a combination of strategies to do that. To name, these are direct and indirect instructions, interactive and experiential instructions, as well as of independent study. From these teaching strategies, there come the teaching methods, which are the specific activity that teachers and learners will do in the teaching and learning processes. In this time of pandemic, still, we have to continue imparting learning to our youngsters. To do so in the so-called new normal, we have to consider the safety protocols. One of those is the physical distancing that brought us to the distance learning. Teaching strategies that I will be presenting can be used to the various modality of distance learning. For the second quarter, we will be dealing with animal and plant reproduction. To deliver the lessons, we can make use of direct instruction. Under direct instruction, here are the suggested teaching methods that you may choose from. One of the methods we may consider is didactic questioning. Didactic questions tend to be convergent, meaning to say coming closer together, especially in characteristics or ideas. It also tends to be factual and often begin with what, where, when, and how. They can be effectively used to diagnose recall and comprehension skills, to draw on prior learning experiences, to determine the extent to which lesson objectives were achieved, to provide practice, and to aid retention of information or processes. Teachers should remember that didactic questions can be simple and can encourage guessing. However, effectiveness of this method can be increased by the appropriate addition of why questions and the occasional use of what-if questions. For examples, what is the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination? In sexual animal reproduction, where are the eggs fertilized? Inside or outside the body of the female? How is the regeneration in a sea star described from the regeneration of lizard's lost tail? And when does cross-pollination occur? Another method to consider is the provision of guides for reading and viewing. There are plenty of different materials we can provide. Providing the list of articles to read and videos to watch will help our learners on what and where they will go, especially for those learners with the capacity to browse the internet. It will serve as their map to enrich the information we teachers provided to them. Guides for reading may contain the list of the different valid and authentic reading materials they can access from the internet that will help them add more knowledge pertaining to the topic we are teaching them. Likewise, same goes with the videos, where we may enlist perhaps the website links of different educational video clips such as documentaries related to the lesson. We may also use mastery lecture. Lecture is a valuable part of a teacher's instructional range if it is not overused, especially when there are other methods that would be more effective. If the presenter or the teacher is knowledgeable, perceptive, engaging, and motivating, then lecture can stimulate reflection, challenge the imagination, and develop curiosity and a sense of inquiry. Criteria for the selection of the lecture method should include the types of experiences learners will be afforded and the kinds of learning outcomes expected. Otherwise, because lecture is teacher-centered and learner activity can be mainly passive, the attention span of learners may be limited. Therefore, to lessen the consequence of this method, the teacher must have supplementary e-learning or e-teaching materials. E-learning and teaching materials must consider credible audiovisuals like TED Talks, crash courses, documentaries, and YouTube videos. Aside from audiovisuals, we may instruct the learners to access the different game-based educational sites absolutely for free, such as Kahoot, Quiziz, Quizlet, Boba Brain, and the like. All they have to do is sign up and log in and then learn with fun. Aside from direct instruction, we could also use interactive instruction. Under interactive instruction is the cooperative learning group method. The basic elements of cooperative learning can be considered essential to all interactive methods. Learner groups are small, usually consisting of 2 to 6 members. Group members share the various roles and are interdependent in achieving the group learning goal. While the academic task is of primary importance, learners also learn the importance of maintaining group health and harmony, and respecting individual views. Cooperative learning can take place in a variety of circumstances. For example, brainstorming and tutorial groups. When it is employed as instructional strategy, provide opportunities to develop cooperative learning skills and attitudes. Let us watch the short video about cooperative learning. There are certain times that learners may get bored and lose their interest and attention with what we are teaching. To eliminate these dull moments and in order to maintain the active participation of our learners, do not limit ourselves with our selected method, most especially in synchronous online session. Instead, try to find online platforms where you can get back the participation and interaction between us as the teacher and our learners. One of these is the Mentimeter. Mentimeter gives every learner a voice and stops only the loudest in the class from being heard. It enables engaged students whenever, wherever using live polls, word cloud, multiple choice questions, and more. We can also track learning and understanding by asking questions and downloading results. According to Dr. Michelle Lansigan of American University, this practice has to exercise by the teacher every 10 minutes for younger learners and every 15 minutes for older ones. After all, learning materials intended either for modular or online teaching and learning are available to our DepEd LRMDS. You can also find a pool of interactive learning materials in DepEd Commons. All you have to do is sign up and log in. Before I end my presentation, I would like to share this to everyone. Teaching is a work of heart. Dear teachers, even if we are given all the best suited teaching strategies, if we do not have a heart to teach, then all of those will be useless. Learners right now would need a teacher not only with knowledge, but rather a teacher with a heart who is willing to help them learn despite the pandemic. I look forward that you got something from my discussion. Thank you for watching and listening. God bless us all and keep safe, everyone. Once again, good morning.
Thank you, Sir Jason. Shout out po sa lahat ng teachers ng Dinalupihan District at ng Orani District. At the end of this webinar, may I remind all the participants to answer the evaluation and assessment form to be posted on our screen at the end of the discussion of all speakers. Another speaker for teaching strategy for the topic Parts and Function of Human Reproductive System is a cum laude graduate of Bachelor in Elementary Education, major in General Education at Bataan Peninsula State University, Orani Campus, and completed her academic requirements for Master of Arts in Educational Management at Tomas del Rosario College. A Teacher 1 of Asuncion Consunji Elementary School, let us all welcome Ma'am Josa Sara Diaz. Good morning, Ma'am Josa.
It's our science time, it's our science time. Come and be merry, it's our science time. It's our science time, it's our science time. Come and be merry, it's our science time. Welcome to the Division Webinar Series on Science Content and Teaching Strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies. I am Miss Josa Sara Diaz, Teacher 1 from Asuncion Consunji Elementary School, Samal District. Science teachers must be knowledgeable, skilled in a variety of teaching methodologies, and imbued with worthwhile values and attitudes. Teachers are what we called the designers of effective learning activities, while learners must possess mental maturity, positive personal traits, coupled with interest, special talents, and aspirations. And learning environment must be orderly, comfortable, and conducive to learning. A harmonious mix of the three can guarantee a successful attainment of the pervading goal of science teaching. Science lessons and activities that are well planned to as objectives, strategies, and teaching devices will be productive and enjoyable. Genuine curiosity, eagerness to learn, and inquisitiveness will be sustained and satisfied. The right mold of a scientific mind among the young will be cultivated and nurtured by competent, inspiring, and compassionate science teachers. This science teaching will definitely be worth all the rich human material and emotional resources that will be generously poured into teaching. But how can we make science teaching more creative at this time? What kind of learners do you envision at this time of pandemic? Distance learning, a learning environment that is conducive to learning. Some of these questions must take into consideration. We want to make sure that in distance education, we promote deeper and creative thinking in our students. There is no single best method in accomplishing a planned objective, and we all know that. One may be selected as the most appropriate for a learning episode, but may not be suited for the same objective in another learning engagement. The teacher's decision in choosing is crucial. The question is, how our pupils will learn the most essential learning competencies at this time of pandemic. But before I start with the discussion of my teaching strategies, here are some principles of teaching that we could use to have an effective teaching strategies. First, be clear about what you want your students to learn. It is crucial that you are clear about what you want your students to learn during each lesson. Clear lesson goals help you and your students to focus every other aspect of your lesson on what matters most. Once you are clear about what you want your students to know and be able to do by the end of the lesson, you need to tell them what they need to know and show them how to do the tasks you want them to be able to do. Third, use questions to check that your students understand things. Techniques such as randomized sampling, student answer boards, and tell a friend help you to check for understanding before moving on from the show and tell part of your lesson, while you can use other questioning techniques at different stages of your lesson. Fourth, have students summarize new information in a graphical way. Graphic outlines including things such as mind maps, flowcharts, and Venn diagram. Discussing a graphic summary is a fantastic way to finish off your how and tell. You can then refer to it one more time at the end of your lesson. Genuine curiosity, eagerness to learn, and inquisitiveness will be sustained and satisfied. The right mold of a scientific mind among the young will be cultivated and nurtured by competent, inspiring. Sixth, provide your students with feedback so they can refine their efforts. Unlike praise, which focuses on the student rather than the task, feedback provides your students with a tangible understanding of what they did well, of what they are at, and of how they can improve. These 6 principles of teaching will make our students learn. Now, I will be presenting to you some of the teaching strategies that can be used to the different learning modalities of distance learning. To teach the lessons in parts and functions of human reproductive system, I have here the direct instruction. But what is direct instruction? Direct instruction is a highly teacher-directed and is among the most commonly used. Here are the possible methods that we may use under direct instruction. One of the methods that we may consider is structured overview. A structured overview is a visual outline of information. It provides a big picture of the concepts being studied and their relationships to one another. When students view the outline, they will have a good idea of the important ideas in a text or lesson and how they are related. With a structured overview, you present information about a key concept in a hierarchical order to show relationships among the piece of information. To develop an overview, put inclusive concepts about subordinate ones. The connecting lines among the concepts clearly show the piece of information. Pupils can use structured overview to understand and study information. Here is an example of structured overview. Next possible method under direct instruction is drill and practice. The term drill and practice is defined as a method of instruction characterized by systematic repetition of concepts, examples, and practice problems. Drill and practice is disciplined and repetitious exercise used as a mean of teaching and perfecting a skill or procedure. As an instructional strategy, it promotes the acquisition of knowledge or skill through systematic training by multiple repetition, rehearse, practice, and engage in rehearsal in order to learn or become proficient. Here are some examples of drill and practice. Next suggested teaching strategy is interactive instruction. Interactive instruction relies heavily on discussion and sharing among participants. Students learn from peers and teachers to develop social skills and abilities, organize thoughts, and develop rational arguments. Teachers must outline topic, time to discuss, group sizing, and how students will share. Success of this strategy is heavily dependent on teacher expertise in instructing and developing the dynamics of the group. So here's the possible method for interactive instruction. Class discussion. Discussion is important to learning in all disciplines because it helps students process information rather than simply receive it. Leading a discussion requires skills different from lecturing. So, here's an example of class discussion through video conferencing. And the last teaching strategy is independent study. What is independent study? Independent study refers to the range of instructional methods which are purposefully provided to foster the development of individual student initiative, self-reliance, and self-improvement. It develops creativity and intellectual curiosity. Independent learning is about pupils being active rather than passive. It is about working out the answers rather than being told them. Here's the suggested possible method for independent study. Reporting. Reporting aims to provide students with information in a direct way in an uninterrupted manner. These are the teaching strategies that we could use in teaching the parts and functions of reproductive system and different learning modalities. But before I end my presentation, let me read this quotation cited by Charles Darwin. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. I hope you get something from my discussion. Once again, thank you very much and God bless.
Thank you very much for a very charming voice, Ma'am Josa. Shout out po again to all teachers of ALS, Hermosa District, Morong District, Bagak District, Abukay District, Limay District, Samal District, and Pilar District. Last but not the least, for teaching strategy with the topic interaction of living and non-living things in estuaries and intertidal zone, is a Teacher 1 of Salian Elementary School. Let us all welcome Sir Aaron M. Ganzon. Magandang umaga po, Sir Aaron.
Good morning, teachers! Thank you for tuning in to our division webinar on science content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies. I am Sir Aaron M. Ganzon, Teacher 1 from Salian Elementary School, Abukay District. I was assigned to discuss the teaching strategies of the contents that was discussed by Ma'am Maria Eloisa Sig-Isim, which is the interactions of living things and non-living things in estuaries and intertidal zones. Based on the most essential learning competencies or MELC, the content standard states that the learners demonstrate understanding of the interactions for survival among living things and non-living things that take place in estuaries and intertidal zones. The performance standard states that the learners should be able to create a hypothetical community to show how organisms interact and reproduce to survive. And the most essential learning competency is to discuss the interactions among living things and non-living things in estuaries and intertidal zones. Experiential learning and indirect instructions are both strategies most suited for the said competency. Experiential learning is inductive, learner-centered, and activity-oriented. It requires learners to reflect about the experience and ways to apply it to other contexts. According to Clapper and Jones, 1979, experiential learning occurs when learners participate in an activity, critically look back on the activity to clarify earnings and feelings, draw useful insights from such analysis, and put earnings to work in new situations. Experiential learning can be viewed as a cycle consisting of 5 phases, all of which are necessary. First is experiencing, where an activity occurs. Second is sharing or publishing, where reactions and observations are shared. Third is analyzing or processing, where patterns and dynamics are determined. Fourth is inferring or generalizing, where principles are derived. And the fifth one is applying, where plans are made to use earnings in new situations. The emphasis in experiential learning is on the process of learning and not on the product. A teacher can use experiential learning as an instructional strategy both in and outside the classroom. Experiential learning is an effective instructional strategy if direct or hands-on experience is needed before teaching methods that involve iconic or symbolic learning. Methods under experiential learning are field trips or virtual trips, games, surveys, and focus imaging. Because all of it requires students' participation, they can build knowledge and attitudes based on what they have observed and experienced and can apply to a new situations. Indirect instruction is mainly student-centered. It seeks a high level of student involvement in observing, investigating, drawing inferences from data, or forming hypotheses. It takes advantage of students' interest and curiosity, often encouraging them to generate alternatives or solve problems. Indirect instruction also fosters creativity and the development of interpersonal skills and abilities. Science logs is a method that can be used at any point in the lesson. It encourages students to think about what they know, what questions they have before the lesson, what they have learned, and what additional questions have been generated after the lesson. Science logs are introduced as places where students will write about their experiences in science, including their observations, questions, and insights. Guided imagery is a method that helps students relate abstract or unfamiliar scientific concepts to their own lives. Students could create or write their own guided imagery passages after they read or learn. The teachers should select a passages or text, for example, about food chain. Then students should identify the key ideas or phrases in the text or passages relating to the concept. Example, in the concept of food chain, the key ideas will be a series of organisms where energy is transferred in the form of food. And lastly, students will develop an idea or visualization that captures the ideas associated with the concept. In our example, students can think that food chain is a series of organisms where energy is transferred in the form of food. Students can visualize in their surroundings that food chains can also interacted with one another depending on the organisms found in a certain place. Inquiry-based learning is a method consisting of 5 phases: ask, investigate, create, discuss, and reflect. The 5 E's are engagement, exploration, explanation, elaboration or extension, and evaluation. In teaching science lessons, follow this method.
Thank you for the meaningful and fruitful discussion, Sir Aaron. And to all the speaker of this webinar series, again, good morning po sa ating lahat. Let us welcome back po ang ating mga speaker. Let's start with Ma'am Nova. Ano naman po dyan? Virtual wave po, Ma'am Nova.
Hello po, everybody. Good morning po
Ma'am
sa lahat.
Eloy,
Hello po, good morning.
Sir Aaron,
Good morning po sa lahat.
and Ma'am Josa.
Hello, good morning po sa lahat.
Let us now proceed with the most awaited part of the program, the question and answer portion. Are you ready, dear facilitators? Ready na po ba tayong lahat? Okay po.
Ready na po.
Okay po, ready na po kayo? So let's start po with our first question came from Mariveles District. I think this question is intended for Ma'am Eloy. Hello
Yes
po,
po.
Ma'am Eloy.
Yes po.
Okay, ang question po, ma'am, ay how will you compare an estuary from intertidal zone and why it is important po? That is the question po. Again po.
So in the first question on how can we compare an estuary from intertidal zone, there are two ways. First, based on their similarity, such as both of them are ecosystems and they have the same geographic features. Now, in terms of their differences, even though they have similar geographic features, still they have differences. In terms of land composition, for example, in the estuary, it is composed of mud flat, while intertidal zone, it is composed of either rocks or soil. Now, with regards to their importance, how important the estuary and intertidal zone, especially to us. They are important because, first, they support diversity of species of an organism. And secondly, they provide a resting ground, a breeding ground, and a feeding habitat to all species. Yun po, sir.
Okay po. Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Eloy. That is correct po, no? That is the breeding ground of all the species or the marine species. Okay, so next po ay question naman po from Bagak District. I think this is for Ma'am Nova. Ma'am Nova?
Yes
Okay
po.
po.
Sige po.
So the
Sagutin ko
question
po.
is, why do you think an adolescent female undergo a period of menstruation?
Okay, for that particular question, sir, the reason why a female adolescent undergo a period of menstruation because the ovaries are starting to make an egg cell already. So a period happens because of changes in hormones in the body, especially in female. Hormones are chemical messengers. Ovaries release the female hormones, estrogen and progesterone. So these hormones cause the lining of the uterus to build up. That is why for female adolescents, they are having this what we call a period of menstruation, and it will slow down or will stop when a female adolescent reach the age of 43 to 55. And according to study, a female can have a period of 40 years of having a menstruation. But it depends on how early a particular female adolescent will have her menstruation period. That is why sometimes ang nangyayari is at the age of 10, adolescent a female start to have their of or her menstruation. Then at the age of 50, doon na nag-aano. Kasi if you're going to count it, 10 years old to 50, it has a range of 40 years. So, yun ang study. Pagdating ng after the 40 years of having that menstruation period sa mga babae na nawawala, nagkakaroon ng menopause or nag-slow down yung pag-release ng egg cell ng babae. So yun po yung simple explanation regarding that particular question. Thank you
Okay,
po.
so thank you po, Ma'am Nova. Tama naman po, no, na
Thank you.
there is no exact age to determine kung ang female ay magkakaroon na talaga ng menstruation. As long na naging active na yung kanyang ovary to produce hormones responsible for the growth of the egg cell ay magkakaroon na ng changes or development sa ating mga sa katawan, especially for female. At i-highlight lang po natin yung sinabi ni Ma'am Nova na tama po yun. According to study, meron po tayong maximum 40 years ng menstruation period. So kung mas earlier tayo nag-mens or kayo po nag-mens, mas maaga po expected po natin na mas maaga ang menopausal stage. Okay, maraming salamat po, Ma'am Nova.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you po dun sa question.
Okay, thank you po, Ma'am. Our third question, I think this is for Ma'am Josa. Hello po, Ma'am Josa.
Hello
okay,
po,
the question,
sir. Good morning po.
Good morning po. The question is, what teaching strategy is the most effective among the teaching strategy that you discussed po, ma'am? Which one is the most effective? What do you think is the most effective one?
Yan. Thank you for the wonderful question po, sir. No? Salamat din po sa teacher po na nagtanong. So, gaya nga po ng sinabi ko kanina, there is no single best method. No po? And we all know that po, mga teachers. So, one may be selected as the most appropriate for a learning episode, but may not be suited for the same objective in another learning engagement. At alam po natin yan. So, but for me, the most appropriate teaching strategy that we could use at this time of pandemic is the independent study. No po? Kasi ang independent study po is pwede nating masabi as directed study. And an educational activity po na with little supervision. But what good at it po is that it provides student opportunities on a particular idea or on a particular topic. Di ba po? Kasi another way po to understand independent study is to understand learning from a distance. No po? Kasi learning from a distance po, kasi is which the learner and the teacher are connected po by something such as worksheets, di ba po, such as essay, and or through a website on the internet. So, yun lang po, sir. Thank you very much po. I hope na nasagot po yung tanong.
Okay, nasagot naman po talaga ang iyong question na there is no perfect, no, it depends on the situation naman po talaga. Kaya nga po siguro that is the importance of the pre-assessment that we conduct, no, for us to determine which is the appropriate teaching strategies and approach that we can use to our learners. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The last question is for Okay po, thank you po. The last question is for Sir Aaron. So, from the suggested teaching strategy that you discussed po, sir, which one is most appropriate for your lesson daw po?
Okay, thank you po, sir. For me, the teaching strategies or the method in which our students develop or discover their own learning with the guidance of the teacher pa rin po, which is the inquiry-based learning is the most appropriate teaching method for the said topic. But remember, teachers, it depends nga po sa mga students natin what strategies or teaching method we implement to our students. Aside from that, the community where our school is located, mas maganda nga po if our students exposed to those kind of ecosystem, the estuaries and intertidal zones. Since alam naman natin po na ang Bataan ay napaliligiran po ng tubig and meron pong mga nasabing ecosystem which is dapat po ma-expose natin yung mga students natin para mas alam po nila na ganito pala yung mga living things or non-living things or ganito po yung mga tawag dito, mga energy factors na meron po doon sa nasabing mga ecosystems. Thank you po.
Okay, salamat po, sir. Tama naman po that we need to maximize all the available resources. Kailangan po tangkilikin natin yung sariling atin, tangkilikin po natin kung ano yung meron tayo. Tama po yung sabi ni Sir Aaron. Again po, maraming salamat po sa ating mga facilitators. Bago po tayo mag-end, shout out po muna tayo. Let's start with Ma'am Eloy po. Any shout out po, Ma'am Eloy?
Okay po. Paki-shout out naman po sa aking mga kasamahan na science teachers sa JEAG, sa mga kahit na po hindi ko ka-departamento, sa lahat ng mga teachers, and also to my principal, yung bago naming principal, si Sir Angelo Basilio, and also to our district supervisor, si Mamini Minerva Rillo, at sa aming assistant principal, si Ma'am Miguela Cayabyab ng Senior High School. So good morning po sa lahat. Tsaka po maraming salamat po sa mga participants natin ngayon na nanunood. Sana po ay meron po kayong napulot doon po sa mga discussion in terms of content and teaching strategies po na mula po sa aming mga facilitators. So maraming salamat po.
Okay, salamat po ulit, Ma'am Eloy. Next po, Ma'am Nova. Any shout out po?
Okay, again, good morning po sa lahat. Unang-una po, nagpapasalamat ako for this kind of opportunity given to me by our supervisor, Sir Edwin Bernilio. Another thing, shout out po sa Saysayin High School, the faculty and staffs of Saysayin High School, especially po sa aming principal, Sir Joselito Alipio, na ngayon po nagdi-distribute sila ng mga modules sa aming araw po kasi ng distribution ng modules namin ngayon. And doon sa dalawa kong kasama na sa science, which is who are si Ma'am Joy Ann Villanueva at si Ma'am Jean Magat. Sana po nakapanood sila kahit na yung oras ko oras ng pagbibigay nila ng module. So salamat po sa lahat. Sana po kahit po konti, meron po kayong natutunan regarding the human reproductive system and also sa mga topics po na discuss namin ngayon this morning. Again po, salamat and keep safe po tayong lahat and God bless us all po. Salamat po.
Okay, salamat po, Ma'am Nova. Next po, Ma'am Josa. Any shout out po?
Yan, good morning po ulit. So, thank you po for this opportunity na mapabilang po ko sa isa sa mga facilitators for this webinar. So, gusto ko lang pong magpasalamat sa lahat ng mga tumulong, sumuporta po dito po sa webinar na ito. Yan, gusto ko lang batiin ang aking school head, Ma'am Aurelia Garcia, and sa aking pong mga co-teachers dito sa Gugo Elementary School. So, marami pong salamat. Nawa po marami kayong natutunan. Thank you po.
Thank you din po, Ma'am Josa. Marami po talagang natutunan ng ating mga grade 5 and ALS teacher. Sigurado po yun. Last po ay si Sir Aaron po. Shout out po, sir.
Thank you po, sir. Take this opportunity po na pasalamatan ko po yung mga naging punong abala para po sa webinar na to. Lalong-lalo na po si Sir Bermilio na kinonsidered po kami na mapabilang po para sa webinar na to. And salamat din po sa teacher and staffs of Jesus Reigns Christian Learning Center Incorporated, headed by Ma'am Anita M. De Dios, Ma'am Ayowa Q. Mercado, and Pastor Orly Mercado. Sa Bangkal Elementary School Teaching Forces din po, headed by Ma'am Melissa N. Mizon, and to Salian Elementary School Teaching Staff, headed by Ma'am Analisa V. Dominguez, and to our district supervisor, Sir Ruel Lingad. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay.
Salamat po ulit, dear facilitators. To give us the closing message, let us hear it from the chairman of grade 5 facilitators, no other than the OIC Assistant School Principal of Nagbalayong Senior High School, Ma'am Evelyn L. Perez.
Thank you po, Sir Deo. Good morning, everyone. It's been our pleasure being with all of you today on our second quarter leg of this science webinar series. We all know that teachers play a significant role in shaping the mindsets of our students today. This series of activities would therefore help teachers to more effectively develop the learning ability of the students that we handle in this challenging period in education. We do hope this could take place in several ways. May I express our appreciation to all of you who have made this webinar possible. Dr. Milagros Peñaflor, CID Chief, Dr. Edwin Rial Bernilio, Science Education Program Supervisor, our amazing line of speakers and facilitators, our program moderator, Sir Deo, the man behind the technical aspects of this program, Sir EJ, the school principals who gave strong support to their teachers, and of course, to the teachers for spending their precious time to participate in this webinar. Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Remind ko lang po ulit na wag po nating kalimutan na magsagot po ng ating assessment and evaluation po. Ang ating pong link ay nasa ating pong monitor, sa ating pong live. Nakalagay po doon ang grade 5 Google Form links, nandun lang po. Pakiclick lang po or i-copy yung link para po makapagsagot po tayo ng 20 items question po, as well as the evaluation po. This webinar series made possible through the combined effort of Schools Division Office of Bataan, headed by Dr. Romeo Alip, our School Division Superintendent, Dr. William Roderick Falurin, our School Assistant Division Superintendent, Dr. Milagros Peñaflor, our CID Chief, and of course, to our very own Dr. Edwin Riel Bermilio, Education Program Supervisor of Science. Maraming salamat po, Sir Edwin, sa opportunity na ibinigay niyo po sa amin at sa tiwala po. To Ma'am Vilma Gonzalez, the school principal assigned to us from Hermosa Elementary School, the chairman of grade 5 facilitator, again, Ma'am Evelyn L. Perez, the OIC Assistant School Principal of Nagbalayong Senior High School, to the co-chairman of grade 5 facilitator, Sir Edmund B. De La Cruz, Teacher 3 from Pagalanggang National High School, and of course, sa tao po, the man behind this webinar series, sa ating pong online platform. Maraming salamat po, Sir EJ Flores. Shout out ko po, para po sa akin ang shout out ko po. Maraming salamat po sa aking paaralan sa Mariveles National High School, Cabcaben, sa aming pong school principal, si Ma'am Ludivina Omania po. Maraming salamat, Ma'am. Sa aking pong napakaganda, napakabait at napakahusay na department head, si Ma'am Salvacion F. Dagdags. Maraming salamat, Head, sa tiwala at sa napakaraming opportunities na binigay niyo po sa akin. At sa aking science department family, alam niyo po kung sino-sino po kayo. Sa lahat po ng faculty ng Mariveles National High School, Cabcaben, maraming salamat po. Again po, dear teachers, I want to leave it with you that education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change a better world. Never stop learning because life never stop teaching. Again, I'm Deodero Lapus Ducot, Teacher 3 of Mariveles National High School, Cabcaben, your moderator. Thank you, keep safe, and God bless po sa ating lahat. Isang virtual wave naman po dyan sa ating pong lahat. Maraming salamat po.